Good afternoon, and welcome to Alden High School's 11th Annual Veterans Day Assembly. My name is Anthony Kudla. I am a junior here at Alden High School. It's my pleasure to be your MC for you this afternoon. I would like to begin by wishing all of the veterans in attendance today a happy Veterans Day. I would also like to say happy 247th birthday to the United States Marine Corps. At this time, please welcome to the podium our Student Congress School Spirit Pillar President, Alex Lysak.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and the playing of the National Anthem. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. Thank you once again to the Alden High School Band and Chorus, led by Mr. Larrabee. Every year at this time, Mrs. Tarrick's English 11 students participate in the Voices of Democracy essay contest, sponsored by the Veterans of Foreign Wars. This year, to answer the question, why is the veteran important? Please welcome to the podium, Hannah Bishop.
The scene was set on an average day at an average place. Everyone who was nearby was an average person, all but one. Within the place was a very special person, an American veteran, talking with his daughter over lunch. He was in the back left corner of his favorite restaurant, on a chair sat in by thousands of others. Seeing this man, doing what every other average person in the place was doing, made me wonder what him, a veteran, was different than everyone else who surrounded him. One difference that became clear was that when I looked at this man, I saw bravery. Behind his eyes, I knew that there were memories of war, but not only of war. His eyes showed his childhood and the way his mother held him. I imagined he fell in love from afar, just hardly a teenager when his gaze met the beauty that he would eventually call his wife, and years later when he would leave her behind to go to war. I saw the tears in his eyes as he wondered if it was the last time he would see her. I wondered if he looked back. I knew that the veteran was different than everyone else, different than the people across the building, blissfully unaware of his presence, different than his daughter who sat across from him, even though he admired her as if he was blessed to have been in her presence. I wondered if she realized his importance too. But what really made the veteran important? Who else has the courage to leave their home behind for a greater cause? Who else has the devotion to keep their loved ones safe and those they've never met? There is only one, the veteran. I've realized that everyone desires to be saved. It is human nature to want to be saved. But it takes a special kind of person to stand up and say, I will be the one to save. What is it that these special kinds of people have inside them that others do not? Perhaps it's something they're born with. Maybe it's something that evolves over time. However it comes about is a mystery, but while veterans tell their stories of love, sacrifice, sorrow, war, and resilience, it begins to show that they use their gift for no other reward than keeping America free. In fact, the veterans are their stories. They are the love we share. They are the safety we know. They are the past, present, and future of us. As I saw the man push against his cane, standing slowly with his daughter's help, I knew the answer. At some point in his life, he dedicated himself to paving the streets in gold for us to walk on. He dedicated his tongue so he could sing the Star-Spangled Banner for our ears to hear. He dedicated his life to our freedom. As he left the restaurant, flashing every average person with his soft smile for no reward, for no reason, everyone who was once unaware of the veteran saw the gleam in his eyes like the stars on the flag and knew his worth. A veteran's honor is in the air we breathe, the ground that we walk on. Without the veteran, America would not be possible.
Thank you to Hannah Bishop for her beautiful tribute. Now to introduce our keynote speaker this afternoon, please welcome Junior Tiara Price to the podium.
Ralph Sirianni was born on the west side of Buffalo on January 2, 1949. As a child of Italian immigrants, Mr. Sirianni dreamed of life in the arts, earning a reputation in his neighborhood for his artistic talents and his ability to draw accurate likenesses of friends and family. After graduating from Kenmore West High School in 1968, he enlisted in the United States Marine Corps and served a year-long tour, primarily in I Corps, the northernmost area of South Vietnam. During his service, Mr. Sirianni used his drawing skills to connect with the local population, cobbling together art materials and canvases from his surroundings and sketching portraits of his fellow soldiers and the civilians they encountered. Upon his return to the United States, Mr. Sirianni remained enlisted at Marine Corps Air Station, Cherry Point in North Carolina for the next 2.5 years, earning the rank of sergeant before his honorable discharge from the Marine Corps in 1972. On the GI Bill, Mr. Sirianni enrolled in the Fine Arts program at the University at Buffalo in 1978, where he worked with renowned Buffalo painter and professor Walter Prochanek to process his experiences during the war and with substance abuse through artistic expression. Mr. Sirianni began working at the Buffalo VA Medical Center in 1978 as a laundry worker and soon volunteered to paint murals in the hospital's lobby and work in what would later become the hospital's creative arts therapy program. After receiving his master's degree in art therapy and human services from SUNY Buffalo State College in 1992, Mr. Sirianni began his 24-year tenure as a creative arts therapist at the hospital. Across his career, he worked with more than 1,000 patients, many of them suffering from severe post-traumatic stress disorder and other debilitating conditions resulting from their service, to express themselves through art. He retired from the VA in 2016. While he was employed at the VA, Mr. Sirianni also developed a side career as a police and courtroom sketch artist beginning in the late 1990s. His sketches have been used by police agencies in Amherst, Batavia, Oakfield, as well as the New York State Police to apprehend suspects in high-profile cases. His courtroom sketches of the trials of the Lackawanna Six, James Kopp, the Buffalo Top Shooter, and many others have been featured on local and international news outlets, including America's Most Wanted and the Associated Press. In addition to his painting, Mr. Sirianni designed several memorial monuments throughout Western New York and the Eastern United States. These include the Iraq-Afghanistan Memorial, the centerpiece of the Western New York Vietnam Veterans Monument, and the Korean War Memorial of Western New York, all at the beautiful Buffalo and Erie County Naval and Servicemen's Park in Buffalo. He also designed the Remembrance Fountain at the VA Hospital, as well as the U.S. Marine-themed Buffalo Soldier statue that is placed for much of the year outside the hospital's main entrance. Through his service to our country in the Marine Corps, his service to other veterans through his work as a creative arts therapist, and his service to the public through his monuments and courtroom sketches, Mr. Sirianni exemplifies what genuine patriotism looks like. We're honored that he has taken the time to be with us today as we celebrate not only the service and sacrifice of all of our veterans, but also the 247th birthday of the United States Marine Corps, which he so proudly served. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Sirianni to the stage.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. Can y'all hear me okay? All right, the mics are working. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Mr. Debkowski. I'm an English teacher here at Alden High School, and I know Ralph from my former career at the Buffalo News. I always have admired his work, his commitment to his community, and so thank you so much, Ralph, for being here today.
Thank you.
All right, so what I wanted to start with, on the screen you can't see it right now, but there's an image of you and your squad in Vietnam in, I think, in 1969.
Yes.
You know, because there's a lot of young people in the audience that are that age that you were, right, graduating from high school, 18 years old. Can you talk a little bit about how you enlisted in the service and how it came to be that you served in the U.S. Marine Corps?
Well, is this too high?
I think they'll turn it down in the booth.
I have to say that I wanted to become a Marine for quite some time. A friend of mine's father served in World War II in the Pacific, and he did a lot of island hopping, and we used to go there in the evening and sit and chat with him, and he'd pull out pictures, and he kind of instilled that in me. And my brother was in the Navy, father was in the Army, so I had to outdo them. I know the Army guys and Navy guys are used to that stuff, but yeah, it was purely patriotic. You know, we were told that the country was under a possibility of communism ruining our way of life, and a lot of us wanted to go in. And I remember an Eagle Scout in my squad, and you know, that just gives you an idea how young we were. because he had just gotten his Eagle Scout and came in the service, and boom, he's out in the jungle with us, and yeah.
Yeah. So there was a certain choice you had to make. Can you take us through when you were enlisting and how you came to make that decision?
The part we talked about?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, as a youth, I used to get in quite a bit of trouble on and off, you know. And I found myself in a situation where the judge says, you're going away for 3 to 5 years, or you're going in the service. So I was going to go in the service anyway. That kind of just spurred things along a little bit. But yeah, that's how that happened.
Right. Let's talk a little bit about your time in Vietnam. You didn't come with easels and oil paints, you know, you weren't supplied with any of that stuff. How did art become part of your experience while you were serving?
Well, backing up before I went in, my recruiter told me that if I went in for 4 years, I could become a combat artist. And I was all about that. I wanted to, because I had seen the military magazines, Leatherneck and such, with combat art being featured. And so, you know, they said, sign up for 4 and we'll make you a combat artist. Of course, you know, in Paris Island, when we were getting ready to receive our MOSs, mine was 03, infantry, and the drill instructors knew nothing at all about this agreement that I had made with my recruiter. So, again, there wasn't a lot of opportunities to draw there, but art has been a big bridge for me, closing the gap in many situations, and Vietnam was just one of them, because there'd be villagers, people who did not like to get their photographs taken, and our presence was hard enough as it was. To be there was not a comfortable situation on either side, really. But I would find maybe a piece of cardboard or a C-ration box and just rip off a piece and do a little sketch of Mama-san or a little child there, and they would love that. That would tickle them. And it was something that I saw that was, again, bridging that gap.
Art as bridging a gap, I think, is a theme that I've detected, you know, across your career. You use it to bring yourself closer to those people in Vietnam. You used it to also address some of your own issues. Can you talk a little bit about when you came back from serving, even after you were discharged? How did you use art in that period of your life to process the traumatic things that had happened?
When I first got back?
Yeah.
Well, when I first got back, I tried to return to that old style of art that I tried to emulate as a child. My heroes were Michelangelo, Leonardo. You know, you looked at the work of Rembrandt and people like that, and you just copied it as best you could. And I never realized how rigid that placed me in my approach to art. To try and copy stuff like that was just a little far-fetched at the time for that age and such. But when I got back from Nam, I was very fortunate to meet Walter Prochanek. He was my mentor at UB, and he taught me. He was a combat veteran from World War II himself. And he taught me that there was just too much going on inside of me. It had to come out. You can't try to draw like a camera anymore. You have to get what you've got inside of you out. And I'm speaking right now mainly of abstract expressionism, where, you know, you see the paint thrown on there and all those things. And that never held any substance for me when I was in school, in high school and such. You know, when I got to a museum, I would walk right past that work, or looking through an art book. When I came to a piece like Pollock's or someone like that, it just didn't compute until Walter helped me release that. And once I did, the work just started pouring out. That's when I started working on multiple canvases at one time. There was just too much in there to work on one piece. So yeah, that was very helpful.
So art tapping into all that stuff that you couldn't express otherwise. How did that experience of learning how to pour everything that was inside you out, how did that prepare you for your career as a creative arts therapist?
Well, the population that I was working with, they were all veterans. It was at the VA hospital. And I was very fortunate. You know, that's just one program that the recreation department there offers. There's so many things that they offer for veterans, but I was in that department as a creative arts therapist with veterans who were often nonverbal. The clinical teams were unable to find out, you know, what was their main reason for being there, and you know, the art. I would set up my table in a way where, you know, we could all be around it and put on some music. Music is a big part of it also. Music that was in tune with the group that I was working with. If they were World War II vets, I might play something older, etc. And what was starting to happen was a lot of these guys that would come in, the men and women, you know, they worked construction or whatever all their lives, and to get them to pick up a pencil and draw, that was like, that's for kids, you know. However, when you create that atmosphere of comfort, and they could feel that, well, you know, the music's nice, and let me pick up this pencil, and everybody's talking, and they start to do a little something, and before you know it, they're talking about the piece, and suddenly you've got something to share with the doctors and nurses that work on the unit. I worked mainly on the psych unit at the VA, so it was very helpful.
I want to talk a little bit before we wrap up about a couple of different directions your career went. First of all, into courtroom sketches and police sketches. As if you didn't have enough on your plate already and you were always creating art, you signed up for a second career kind of exploring, working with police agencies. Can you tell us, can you give us a little glimpse into that and maybe a success story from that part of your career?
Well, that was two things that were always on my bucket list as an artist, was to try courtroom drawings and police sketch work. Because I enjoy doing people, you know, drawing people, and I'm not much of a landscape artist, still lifes and such. Not that I discount them, but where were we?
Just talking about some success stories from police sketch art.
Yeah, I knew that was going to happen, you know. So I think it was the first or second case I got. Buffalo Police called me in from SOS, Sex Offense Squad, and asked me to interview a girl who was 15. She had been raped, brutally beaten, and her mother was there, detectives, and I realized immediately that I had to present myself in such a way that these folks who were trying to recount something terrible that happened to them would feel comfortable enough to do that, so that I could hopefully transpose what I'm getting onto this paper and be helpful in, the arrest of the individual. So I came up with a drawing, and within 24 hours they found that individual. He was at the bus station ready to go. So that was very early on in the courtroom sketches, and that was very rewarding for me.
Great. Finally, I think I'd like you to talk just a little bit. Mr. Sirianni has done monuments all over the eastern seaboard, I think it's fair to say, mostly in Buffalo. How did you get into doing monument design work, and what do you get out of that? What part of your artistry does that feed?
Well, it was a whole new thing. I was approached to design the centerpiece for the Western New York Vietnam Monument back in early 80s, and it was dedicated in 84. Well, each monument has a story behind it. That particular one had its story, and then there were two other ones at the Naval Park. And before I knew it, I was, being asked to create designs of monuments and work with the stone cutters and folks that would be on it to make sure that they were following my lead there on the design. It's always an honor to have a veterans group approach me and trust my vision as an artist to come up with a design. One that I'm very fond of is the Iraq-Afghanistan down at the waterfront. It's so abstract. I know Walter would have loved it. And yet, all it is the basic shape of an A and an I to represent Afghanistan and Iraq. But it's different, and they went with it, so I was very appreciative. And there's two down in Virginia, one at OCS, Officer Training School in Quantico, and another at the Marine Corps Museum. So I was very proud to be a part of that as well.
Great. But, I wish we had endless time, because I know you have so many other stories about how do you use art. You've used it so many different ways. You've used it to connect with people in Vietnam. You've used it to process your own stuff. You've used it to help nonverbal veterans find their voice in a certain way. You've used it to help catch suspects. It's really endless. It's incredible.
Oh, yeah.
How many different ways you've used art. So my last question for you is, how would you, for the artists among the crowd today who are trying to find their own artistic voice, what advice would you give them if they're still out there searching for a way to express themselves that feels genuine and true to them?
Do what you feel, get a canvas and get some paint and just move the paint around. Let what's going on inside of you guide you. Don't be intimidated by looking at some of these works, because they'll, as I shared with Colin the other day, they'll turn you away. You'll just say, I can never do that. Well, don't try to do that. Do what you feel. Enjoy it. It's all about, getting everything out that's in you. And the only person that can really do that is you. So just give yourself a break.
Great. We didn't mention there's a certain connection between the Marine Corps and the Alden High School. Do you want to talk about that?
Today's our birthday, 247 years. Yep, hurrah. And as you may not know, the Marine Corps mascot is a bulldog, and I became aware when I first came here that it's also the mascot here at Alden, so we share that, and it's very special. So, hurrah.
All right, on that note, thank you so much, Mr. Sirianni.
Thank you, Mr. Sirianni, for your inspiring presentation. On behalf of the entire Alden School community, it is my honor to present you with a small token of appreciation for being with us today to honor the great men and women like you who served this nation as members of the U.S. military.
We have a special award presentation from Sergeant James Farley from the Army National Guard.
So I'd like to present this award for excellence to the Alden High School School District for always supporting veterans and for all the things that they do for the veteran community. We thank you, and we appreciate all you do.
On behalf of the entire Alden Central School District, I'd like to thank Sergeant Farley for this presentation. Thank you.
At this time, to honor the veterans here with us today, please welcome to the podium Student Congress officers Lena Fazio and Nathaniel Barsh.
Good afternoon. Lena and I will read the names of each veteran present today by branch of service. When you hear your name, please stand and remain standing until all veterans have been introduced.
Please join me in honoring the following Army veterans. Michael Bennett. David Bensley. Carl Dygolski. Art Egging. John Ertl. James Farley. Chris Gordon. Jeffrey Kuznick. Mary Law. Nancy Mathewson. Carl Matthews. Damian Mirioni. Roy Neiman. Batista Rapini. Lucas Seeley. Patrick Seifert. David Van Ornum. Tu Hua. Michael Zash. Let's please have a round of applause for all of the U.S. Army veterans here today.
Please join me in honoring the following Navy veterans. Rick DeGest. Thomas Echeverria. Suzanne Mark. Kenneth Pittman. Pete Speranza. Richard Tortorese. Please give a final round of applause to the Navy veterans. Please join me in honoring the following Marine veterans. Jonathan Anderson. Phil Hondages. Dylan Hiller. Lawrence Osika. Andrew Kukmansky. Ralph Siriani. Greg Kent. Please give a final round of applause to the Marine veterans. Please join me in honoring the following Air Force veterans. Richard Dygulski. Dave Moscaritolo. Gerald Owens. Nicholas Smith. Please give a round of applause to the Air Force veterans.
Thank you to all of the veterans here today. We thank you for your dedicated service to our country, and we honor the men and women who have made the ultimate sacrifice in defending our country. A special thanks to our keynote speaker this afternoon, Mr. Siriani. We are honored by your presence and all the veterans here today. Thank you to all of the active service members present today, especially the color guard. And finally, on behalf of the entire Alden school community, I thank you all for being here this afternoon to appropriately recognize Veterans Day. Just a little reminder to all of our students here tonight, the Community Service Pillar is holding a bonfire for our Alden High School tonight from 7 to 9 p.m. in the high school parking lot. There's going to be snacks, games, and we're going to have a fun time. Admission is $5 donation at entrance, and all proceeds will benefit free meals for veterans during the month of November through Alden's Meals on Wheels.
At this time, I would ask that all of our veterans present this afternoon, along with their host, please recess to the cafeteria for a brief reception. Refreshments will be served.